Good day, everybody. My name is Denis. I am a registered dietitian with a master's degree in kinesiology, and the students in the two different classes that I teach about sports nutrition have an assignment about these videos where I talk to the elite athletes of Canada about their sports. Today's sport, one of my absolute favorites, wrestling. In fact, and you might not even believe this looking at a guy like me today, but back in the day, I was on my university's varsity wrestling team. Don't believe me? Don't believe that a guy who looks like this now could have once been a wrestler? Well, take a look at this. Wow, take a look at that. In fact, this gives me a great idea. Maybe a question I could put on my students' assignment is to point out the similarities and differences or the advantages and disadvantages between these two pictures. Might be a little bit below the level of a third and fourth year university course, but we could give it a try. For example, students might point out an advantage of the picture from 1999 would be in the hair department. In that his hair is not ghost white like this other character. However, if I do say so myself, I'm going to have to give the advantage to today's picture in the department of forearm muscular definition. Sorry. Let's get serious for a moment and let's start talking about a real wrestler. But not just any old real wrestler. We're talking about Carol Huynh, who for the next hour and a half is going to share her amazing journey to becoming Canada's first ever female Olympic gold medalist in the great sport of wrestling. Here is the bio of Carol Huynh. 11 times the Canadian national champion in the 48 kilo weight class. Gold medalist at the Commonwealth and Pan Am Games, a 4-time medalist at the World Wrestling Championships, and a 2-time Olympian, winning the bronze medal in 2012. And in 2008, Carol Huynh became the first Canadian woman to win an Olympic gold medal in the sport of wrestling. Post-career, Carol got a master's degree in counseling psychology and today coaches for the University of Calgary wrestling team. Carol Huynh, please tell us where you were born and raised.
I was born and raised in a small town in northern BC called Hazelton. And for whatever reason, my parents were sent there after coming from Vietnam as refugees. And a community church, United Church, decided to sponsor a family from Vietnam. And that's where we ended up.
Carol, I think there's more meat on that bone that we're going to get into before we're done here in the next hour and 20 minutes or so. But for now, let me just continue, Carol, and ask you, why wrestling?
Why wrestling? Well, for whatever reason, northern BC, all the little towns had wrestling programs. And so I was lucky enough to have a wrestling coach that had started a program and then got really became an advocate for starting a women's wrestling program. So my sister, who is actually 4 years older than me, was one of the first female wrestlers on my high school wrestling team. And so I remember seeing her, walking around in the high school hallways, and she just seemed so confident and strong, and I wanted to be like her. So that's what first got me interested in wrestling. And let me tell you, I actually just tried out, I tried it out in grade 9, and I quit almost right away.
I did not know that part of the story.
Yeah, so I actually joined.
Why'd you almost quit?
So, I did quit that year. I tried it out just like a couple practices, and I believe that it was because I was very shy, And I didn't join with my friends. I joined, and there was a whole bunch of older members on the team, and I just didn't feel like I fit in. So it was the following year, my grade 10 year, I ended up joining with a whole bunch of my girlfriends, and
Mm.
it just made it so much more fun and really helped me to stick with the program. And, back then it was kind of a strange thing for females to get involved in a combat sport.
Yes, Carol.
So, with all of my friends joining up, and including my younger sister, who is 2 years younger than me,
And just for context, you're saying what year are we talking about here? This is the
that's
mid
96,
90s?
95, 96.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So that was kind of the beginning ish of women's wrestling in BC, anyway. So,
yeah. Yeah, we're going to get into all this, Carol, the women's involvement in the sport, and that's a very interesting component, I think. My students, Carol, if you think about it, they weren't born, well, to be honest, they weren't born in the
I know.
1900s. They never saw the 1900s. So when you say to them, it was only in 2004 that women were allowed to wrestle at the Olympics.
Yep.
It's kind of shocking in that way that some of these things, they're not always, it shouldn't be taken for granted that these things are always going to exist. You were a trailblazer in that way. Now, Carol, let's make a great big jump forward, okay?
Okay.
I think we might come back. This might not be a chronological type of interview. We're going to cover a whole bunch of awesome stuff about your career in wrestling, what it takes to make an elite level wrestler in terms of the training, the nutrition, psychology, all kinds of stuff. But let's jump right to the highlight of highlights. 2008 Olympic gold medal. Carol, when was the last time you watched this match?
I don't know. It's been a while.
You don't watch it every day? If that was me, I'd wake up every day and I'd watch the thing. I thought it might be instructive, educational, if you will, to give us a taste of what wrestling, the sport, is all about. If we could, what better way to begin our introduction than by watching the 2008 Olympic gold medal match? Let me bring it up here, Carol, and you and I are going to do a little sit and watch, and you can point out all the nuances of not just wrestling, but wrestling on the grandest stage of them all for the Olympic gold medal.
All right.
All right, that's a good
Exciting.
segue. All right, so Carol, here it is. We're looking at it. The mats back in Beijing. Now, you're obviously going to lead the way here, telling us what's going on. But I want to set some of the stage for the story. Okay, Carol's coming into this. She's already a multi-time Canadian senior champion. But Carol, are you expected to win this particular match?
Oh no. Definitely not. Actually, so Chihiro Icho, we had been competing against each other for probably a decade, almost a decade at this point, and I'd never beaten her. Never got close. She'd always beaten me every time we met.
Which is amazing.
Yeah, I
Uh,
was definitely
I,
the underdog.
I read somewhere, Carol, do you remember the exact? She beat you 10 times in a row, I read somewhere.
I don't remember how many times we met. I don't think it was 10 times, but I had met.
I don't mean to sell you short.
Yeah, enough times to know that she was definitely the one slated to win this match for sure. Yeah, she
So,
was the returning silver Olympic silver medalist
and the reigning
and
world champion.
world champion. Yeah.
So Carol comes to the mat, and let's have a watch here, folks. I am going to pause it, Carol, in some strategic places and get your opinion on what's happening here, because, folks, wait till you see how this thing starts off. We got to be quick here. Here we go. Freestyle, 48 kilogram women gold medal match, 2008 Olympics. Let's start. Okay, now, Carol, the match is 5 seconds old.
Yep.
And I think to non-wrestling fans, you don't fully appreciate what has just happened here already. This, Carol, to put it in other sports perspective, okay? People might know the sport of American football better than they know wrestling. What I think just happened here is the equivalent of when Carol and I are filming this, by the way, the Super Bowl is coming up in a couple days. The start of this match, Carol, is kind of the equivalent of on the first play of the Super Bowl, the quarterback launching a 50-yard touchdown attempt that he connects with on the first play of the game. 5 seconds in, you've already shot a leg. Can you tell us so what has happened here? Number one, and number two, Carol, was your strategy coming in here, keeping in mind this girl's kicked your butt, maybe not 10 times in a row, but was the strategy just to be very, very aggressive with an early shot like this?
Yeah, actually, for the whole tournament, my strategy was to be the first to attack. So I wanted to get the person on the defensive, whoever it was that I met up against, on the defensive in the first 10 seconds of the match. So not exactly scoring. Like my goal wasn't just to score, which of course, like when you attack, you know, your aim is to score. But I just knew that strategically, psychologically, if I were the one to develop an attack sequence, then that would put them a step behind because they're on the defensive. So that was my strategy through the whole tournament, and this is my fourth match.
Yeah,
Of the day.
and it
Yes.
worked so good here. Again, you got her leg good. Do you
Yeah.
remember? This is 2008. Are you surprised at this point? Like you like, holy crap! Like I've got her here.
Well, in the moment, no, I wasn't surprised. I think I felt very determined.
Yeah.
I remember actually before stepping out onto the mat for for the beginning of this match, you know, they announced us and we were standing there basically like side by side. And I remember looking out at the crowd and just feeling like I could hear all the cheering. I was looking all around the stadium and I saw all these Canadian flags and I knew my family was out there, my teammates. So many supportive people were there, and I knew people were watching all around the world. So I had this feeling of, I don't know, it was just like this lightness, a confidence.
Wow.
And it was a lot of stuff that I had worked on psychologically beforehand to really just feel the freedom of
Wow.
being in the moment and just doing my best. And I knew that if I could wrestle to the best of my ability, I could be the best in the world. But I just, you know, it's one moment at a time, right? So,
Yeah.
so in this moment, I wasn't surprised. I hit that attack, and I just felt very determined that I was going to do my best to finish the attack,
Yeah.
and that was
Carol,
it.
so much good stuff there, and I kind of hinted already. We're not going to necessarily go chronologically here, but you just dropped the nugget there about the psychology. Where are you in 2008 in your psychological studies? We heard in the intro, you got a postgraduate degree in this stuff now. It is your area of expertise. But where are you along that process in 2008, Carol?
Yeah, so I had finished my bachelor's degree in 2004, and that was in psychology. And at this point, I hadn't started my master's yet. I actually start like, you know, a month after this this event.
Really, eh?
I start my master's in counseling psychology. However, 2 years before, no, about a year and a half before this event was when I really took some major steps forward in working on my mental game. So I worked
Okay.
quite diligently with a couple of mental performance consultants and did just a ton of work on building my confidence, you know, being able to perform under pressure, that sort of thing. So yeah, it really
Wow.
paid off. It really did.
Yeah, for sure. Well, they call, I've heard wrestling called the game of human chess, Carol.
Yeah.
So, I mean, clearly there's an enormous number of physical skills that are necessary, but this is a big one too. Okay, let's keep watching here. What I want you to do next, okay, for the non-wrestling aficionados out there, there may be some, Carol. I'm going to play it while you two are grappling here, okay? And what I want you to do from two different perspectives. Well, first of all, you can even educate us, Carol, like how you score in this
Right.
sport, okay? Tell us what you're trying to do as the attacker, and then maybe also fill in what your opponent is trying to do technically to defend your attack. So let's watch what happens here, and when and I'll pause it just after a few seconds of this grappling here.
Sure. So here on a single leg attack, and essentially when you're attacking somebody, you want to show control. That's how you score points. So you can show control by getting behind somebody's hips. If they, fall to their stomach, you would get some points. If they fall to the back, you would get probably more points. Keeping in mind, I'm being vague because the rules have changed. The point system have changed since this event. But essentially, you want to try to show control, and you get points from that. And the ultimate sign of control is if you pin somebody, so that's always a goal as well. That doesn't happen very often in very high-level matches, but...
Two shoulders on the mat. That's a pin.
Exactly.
Match is over.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have a point on her here yet at this point?
Not yet. No, I have not shown control. I need to be able to pass that leg and get control of the hips behind her.
Let's take it back 1 second here and talk now about from the defensive point of view. If you could point out a couple of things, Carol, that she's doing to try to prevent you from doing the things you just said that you're trying to do. Ready? I'll go back.
Yeah, so I've got control of her
go.
leg, and I'm just trying to take her down to the mat and get control by getting behind her. So she's trying to not allow me to have control over that leg. She really wants to get it away. She wants to break my body position so that she can defend that leg.
And look where her hand is, Carol? Talk about that.
Yeah, it's smooshing my head down.
Yeah.
So that's her trying to get me out of good body position. You really want to try your best to keep your spine in alignment, and that's when you're strongest. But
Okay, let's keep watching the end of this little sequence here and see how it turns out. Still nothing. Still nothing.
She's trying to break my grip. I'm trying to grab my elbows. And here we are. We're like basically chasing their tails here.
Yeah.
So she was trying to lift my leg.
Incredible speed, though. Incredible speed.
So now here we are.
On the mat.
I'm actually, so my aim here is to get her head down and her leg up. So her, kind of like a teeter-totter. So then I can, again, it's about breaking their body position and basically taking away their ability to be mobile, to be balanced and powerful. So I'm trying to take that away from her and trying to increase my ability to be mobile, stable, and powerful.
Which you have not done successfully yet, right? No points yet.
No points yet. So you can see she still has my leg. Her arm is in there. And I still haven't, I need to pass that arm to get to the hips.
So she's doing a pretty good job.
Yeah. Yeah. She's still fighting at this point. And now we go out of bounds. And so you can see the referee just said,
Stand him up.
Out of bounds, stand it back up. So at this point, you can see that I have a point on the board now, and I didn't know this because the mat official, the referee, said no points because it was out of bounds in parterre, which means that we were on the ground. Yep. If I had taken her out of bounds and she was standing, that they would have given me a point. So at this point, I didn't know that I had that 1 point on the board. The other officials, there's 3 of them, so there's one on the mat, and then there's the person at the head table, and then there's the other person at the other end of the mat. And so 2 out of 3 have to agree. And so I guess they had agreed that, actually, I had stood her up enough to be in standing position. So then they gave me the 1 point for out of bounds. Yeah.
So Carol at this point is in the lead. 1:38 has gone by. The rounds are 2 minutes, by the way. And Carol, in the gold medal match, that she's not supposed to win, she's got a 1 point lead, and the first round's almost over.
Yeah, and at this point, the rules are that it's best out of a possible 3 2-minute rounds, and at the end of the round, the points get cleared, and you start the new round 0-0. So this is the first round.
So pretty much, again, for fans, maybe not specifically of amateur or Olympic-style wrestling, but that's pretty standard, I would say, Carol, for all combat sports. They do it in a rounds format, varying number of minutes. Here, what we have is 2 minutes, and it's the best 2 out of 3. If you win two rounds, you're the winner.
Yes. That's right.
Okay, something interesting just happened here. You,
Yes.
you just tried another shot.
Yeah,
She's
I took a not a very good shot,
Well,
in my
she defended
opinion.
it well. Look at this, a good sprawl.
Good
Let's give her
sprawl,
give her
yes.
some credit. Okay, so Carol tries again. You're being by far the aggressor here. Although you may not look like it, Carol was the one that initiated this position. She's being the aggressor here. There was a good defensive sprawl to keep her from the takedown. But if we watch what happens here, folks, keep in mind there's only 20 seconds left in round one. This is going to be cool. This is going to be cool. Let's watch what happens next.
Yeah, so I'm on the legs. So I'm trying to figure out how to continue my attack.
And and
And and somehow I get my head up to the hip instead of having it crushed down, and I take her out of bounds in a big double leg takedown. For
huge
I think
double
it's
leg.
is it 2 points or three? I can't remember the point system now. How it was
They
back then.
they gave you three, I think, what happened, Carol. And the reason being, as we could see clear, look at the position she's in, for goodness sake. Clearly, from a standing position, right to the back. That ain't good for the for the
That's
for
not
the
good for
for the
her.
blue. So that was a beautiful double leg. I think they gave you three. The round's
Yes.
almost over, and now Carol has, yeah, 4-0 after the first round. Let me just pause here again, Carol. Let's get into some of the physiology. We talked about the psychology.
Hmm.
Describe what you're feeling like here after 2 minutes of Olympic level wrestling, physically.
Oh yeah. No, I actually um I don't like I don't remember feeling tired. I remember actually as I was walking to the corner and I could see that my coaches were really excited. And so back to this psychological thing and the connection between your physiology and your psychology is that like I was also feeling excited, but I knew that I needed to bring that down so that I can be ready for the next round. So there's 30 seconds break in between the rounds. And I remember walking over to my corner and I didn't even want to look at my coaches because I knew they were excited. You kind of saw a little clip of them, like high-fiving and like really excited.
Yeah.
Um, and honestly, like I don't even remember what they said. I was just trying to like get myself, yeah, I was feeling elevated in my excitement level. I was like, I didn't want to get too ahead of myself. Again, I wanted to get myself back into being in the moment, sticking to my game plan, and yeah, just and feeling good about what I was going to do out there. So. So it was a
Fantastic.
lot of, deep breathing and again, just using some strategies to be in the moment before heading out for the second round.
Carol, let me add my little 2 cents about how you're feeling after this, using my own story, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Nowhere near, obviously, Olympic level, but Carol, the very first ever. This is my famous story of starting wrestling in university. I had done every sport under the sun, Carol: hockey, basketball, running, weightlifting, rugby, you name it. I did them all. I'm telling you, wrestling match number one happened to go to overtime, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I forget how many. I do forget the number of minutes. It was something like this, like 2 minutes a round, and a second 2 minute rounds went to overtime. Anyway, Carol, immediately after this match, I ran to the bathroom and vomited, and that was significant because I had never ever done that through physical exertion. In fact, I hadn't vomited in like years. I was like a kid the last time I vomited. But wrestling match number one, Carol. It is such a it's such a physically demanding thing to to engage in a physical. You know what I'm saying? Like, pushing and pulling against another human at such a level of intensity for that length of time. Anyway, that was me at my piddly little level. Vomited, Carol. Thank goodness you did not vomit during the round, the middle, the break. But anyway, I throw that in just to say the level of physical exertion, the level of physical fitness required in the sport of wrestling. So anyway, let's enough of my foolish stories. Let's keep watching the gold medal at the Olympics. So here's the beginning of round two. If Carol wins this round, she is the Olympic champion. Let's keep watching. So she
Okay.
had to shoot then, Carol, because she's losing,
Yeah.
and she tries a shot which you defend easily.
Yeah, so strategically, I knew going into this second round that she was going to have to come after me. And so I anticipated that she would be coming for my legs. And yeah, I just, what we call it's a down block redirect. So you down block, you block their shot, and then you move their head in a certain direction so then I can get around behind. So that's exactly what happened. And yeah, it all happened really, really fast. But I was able to take advantage of that position.
Here we go. Oh, this is gonna watch this. Watch this. Watch this.
There we go. So that's a transition into what we call a laced ankle, where you basically you put a lot of torque on the legs by binding the legs one over top of the other and just rolling through. So really important here with the the skill level in and around wrestling is that yeah you can get your takedown, but it's those little pieces where you can transition from one move to the next fluidly, where you can take advantage of the position to control your opponent's body position so that it makes it more difficult for them to defend the next attacks.
And again, just the nuts and bolts wrestling 101, Carol. This is another way to score.
Yes. So if you're on the ground and you can turn your opponent's back past 90 degrees, that's 2 points.
Right.
And you can do that multiple times, which I'm trying. I try to go again, but she was able to stop me.
And now we're at the very end here.
Yeah, so we skipped ahead, like we missed a whole bunch of really boring stuff.
No, not boring.
Well, essentially, my strategy after I scored those first 2 points, and that happened within the first 25 seconds of the that second round, was just to keep her away from my legs. And also keep her away from getting in close. She likes these underhooks where you get underneath the armpit, and she had tossed a couple people from that position and had some takedowns from that position. So I knew that I really needed to block her out, using my elbows and my body position, my head position. So there was a lot of that through the whole match, and even at the end, the referee had awarded her a point because I was blocking too much.
You were too passive.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. But that's part of the strategy. It was okay. Like I could give up 1 point
Yep.
through being passive, and I would still be winning. So, yeah. So strategically, I just shut her down for the next minute and a half of that second round.
The other sporting analogy might be, again, people know hockey. If a team, Carol, is winning 3-0, with 10 minutes left in the third period, you might go back into a defensive shell, because the game is in hand. All you got to do is run out the clock, and that's what you're saying you did there.
That's right. Yeah.
Anyway, here we have Canadian flags, Olympic gold medal champion. I guess, Carol, we got to ask the obvious question here. What are you feeling here at this moment?
Well, I remember when the official blew the whistle and I just raised my arms and I just screamed. And then this whole time I'm like laughing and crying and screaming, and there's a lot of emotions. Yeah, I couldn't believe it. And it was so nice to be able to celebrate with my coaches there who'd been with me through a lot to get me to this point. Yeah, it was just very exciting, very exciting.
Not expected to win. There she is, Olympic gold medal. Not expected to win. Look, this is after the tears, I think, have come down.
Oh,
Carol.
yeah. Oh, I bawled my eyes out on the podium.
Well
I had to
earned,
pull
though.
myself together because I knew that the anthem was going to be playing, and I was like, okay, I better remember where in the anthem we are so I can start singing. Oh, that was fun.
Fantastic. The first ever Canadian female to win a gold medal at the Olympics. The first Canadian athlete at those Olympics to win a gold medal. Carol, what can we say? What can we say? Unbelievable stuff. Now, we're only getting started, Carol. We're only getting started.
Oh boy.
I'd like to figure out how you got to that point. Okay.
Okay.
Your pathway to becoming an Olympic gold medalist in the sport of wrestling. And I think, Carol, um, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't go all the way back to hear how you got there and tell us a bit about the story of your parents, Carol. Um, and you alluded to a little bit, but it's a tremendous story. If one of my goals here, Carol, is not just to talk about sports science, but also to promote a little Canadiana, your parents really have a great slice of Canadiana, the history of what came to be called the boat people, immigrating from Vietnam into the country. I'll leave it with you. Just tell us the story of your parents, Carol.
Yeah, so actually, my parents were ethnic Chinese, so they had already been refugees from China. Their families moved to Vietnam. My I think my dad was like 4 when he moved to Vietnam, and my mom was born in Vietnam. And yeah, I think it was 1979, and it was after multiple attempts of them trying to leave Vietnam, and they were finally able to leave, and they ended up at a refugee camp in Indonesia. And they waited probably about 8 months before they found somewhere to go. And that was Canada. And so when they came to Canada, I believe that they all, like everyone was shipped to Edmonton when
Okay.
they first arrived. And then they waited there until they were sponsored by a family or an organization. And I remember my parents telling me that, because I was always curious of like, why did we end up in little tiny Hazelton,
Mm,
BC,
mm,
a town of probably less than 5,000 with all the villages, towns all put together.
mm.
And yeah, but I was very grateful that we did end up there, because I think that I'm not sure if I would have had this, the same path if I hadn't ended up there. So, yeah, so then they moved to Hazelton, BC in February of 1980. And my parents, it was so funny. They told me a story of how, they looked around. It's February in northern BC. And so, like, snow, there's no trees on, or no leaves on the trees. And my parents were thinking, what have we done? Where are we? We're in a place where all the trees are dead. And so
Oh, they
the
thought it was like a catastrophe. They're dying. The trees are dying.
exactly. That they were sponsored by the United Church, and they were took in by some very lovely, lovely people. In particular, my foster grandparents, who took care of us, looked after the family, and made sure that we were thriving in the community. And so I wasn't born yet. I have my older brother and older sister were very young, like 3 or 2, and I was the first one in my family born in Canada. And so I was born later that year, actually. So, yeah, and then after that, yeah, they were just trying to figure out how to first survive and then thrive in the
Wow.
community. And
That's a good way to put that.
yeah.
How to survive first and then thrive. And let me tell you, Carol, if I may add here, why I think that story is so cool is because I think, Carol, if you or me or anybody can really fully appreciate the present moment, you got to know about how you got here and what the people that came before you had to endure in their times on planet Earth. And I, like you, I think, Carol, I'm proudly Canadian. And our country's not perfect. Not perfect. But, Carol, I think you got to say, of all the times and places in history where one might be alive, right here and now, Canada, 2026, man, oh man, you could do a lot worse than be in the here and now, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think because of my family's history, it's just it's it's a lot easier to be grateful for what we have, you know.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
Understanding my parents' story and the hardships that they and struggles that they
Yep.
faced in their lifetime, I am truly, I'm so grateful to have ended up in Canada. And yeah, my parents are proud Canadians. They certainly are grateful for the life that they were able to build here in Canada, because Canada was open to take in refugees. And yeah, and I think that it was a very important time in Canada's history, and certainly is, you know, we're seeing some similarities at this point in time as well. So yeah, very grateful.
Yep, it's not perfect. Carol, one of the coolest things I ever did, believe it or not, a couple of semesters ago, two fall semesters ago, I was invited to do the keynote at the academic opening of Kintor College here in Toronto, and this was kind of the speech that I gave. Basically, the premise was, well, like I said, progress is not it's not a linear trajectory. You don't always keep getting better and better and better. Places like Canada, we were making great strides in every conceivable way in the world. You might want to evaluate progress. We're doing good, but it's not like it constantly goes up and up. You have blips along the way. And my thesis that day, Carol, I think maybe you might say at this moment we're in a bit of a downward blip, even you might say. But in the grand scheme of things, like the idea is to keep progressing and go up and up, even if it's not always the most straightforward. The road is rocky, but anyway,
Absolutely.
moral
Well,
of
yeah, I use that actually when I talk to different athletes about you know, the challenges that you're going to face if you have set yourself a goal, especially a difficult, challenging goal. It is not going to be a straightforward
can't
line
be, Carol.
towards it. You're going to have, you know, all over the place, but always, you know, moving forward. Yeah.
Generally progressing in the
Yes.
vicinity
Generally.
of pro. That's the key. That's the key, man. And Carol,
Exactly.
listen, what a beautiful segue that was. What a beautiful segue that was. Because what I wanted to talk about next, speaking of hard times, and
Mhm.
speaking of not just strapping a rocket ship to your back and going right to the top of the wrestling world, let's talk about 2004, Carol.
Mhm.
Okay?
Yeah.
Let me set the stage here. So you said you've been wrestling for many, many years now. Started wrestling at a time, Carol, when girls didn't really wrestle. They did, but like it wasn't as acceptable as it is today.
Mhm.
Again, can I throw back the idea of knowing where you came from? Like, don't think this is a granted that girls are allowed to go to the Olympics and compete for stuff. They weren't. They weren't always in recent history, and you're living proof of it. So it was the year 2004 when the powers that be finally said, "Should we? The girls wrestling? Yes, we should. Good idea." 2004, Carol. This is not ancient history. Prior to that, you could wrestle like you did, but I
Yeah.
don't think you're going to go to the Olympics. We're not. So you get the opportunity now.
Yeah.
You have the chance to go to the Olympics, represent your country and women for the first time ever in this sport at the Olympics. 2004. You take it from there.
Yeah, actually, so I went to SFU, Simon Fraser University in BC, and one of my teammates was Daniel Legali, who I had witnessed the watching on TV from the pub at SFU. I watched Daniel Legali win a gold medal at the 2000 Olympic Games,
Yeah.
and I remember thinking like, "Oh man, that would be awesome if that could be me." But there was no chance because
Hey.
we weren't in the Olympics yet.
Right.
Yeah. So
But how? So in 2000, it wasn't even a whisper that maybe we should let the girls in.
no, in 2000, no. It wasn't until I think it was 2002. So a couple years later that we started hearing, oh, well, hey, actually, I think there's talk about getting women's wrestling in the Olympic Games. And so when we found that out, then all of a sudden people are like, "Oh, okay, well, what's this going to look like?"
Mm,
And they only for the 2004 games they only added four women's Olympic weight classes. And so, leading into the 2004, Olympic trials and that sort of thing, everybody through the whole world is trying to figure out where they should go, as in the weight classes, because
Ah,
at the time there were seven weight classes and they took every other one. So you have people who are, so 48 kilos happens to be my weight class.
right.
So I was like, okay, well, yeah, that's where I'm going to go. But then there are other people who were in between. So it's like 48,
Mm,
55, 63, and 72. So then there were ones in the middle, but in between those, they either had to try to lose weight or gain weight
or
to
gain weight.
fit the Olympic weight class. Um, and so one of my teammates, so I thought, oh, well, hey, you know what? Oh, this is awesome. I'm a shoe-in. I've been number one in Canada at 48 kilos for a couple years, a few years.
Multi-time national champion.
Yes, yes. So, but I had a teammate who, funny enough, Lindsay Belisle, also from Hazelton, BC.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah,
She's from
my
Hayes.
hometown. She's from
How is that
Hazelton.
possible? I didn't know that.
I don't know, something in the water. I don't know. So we're teammates, and she was always vying for at the 51 kilo spot. So she was on the national team off and on, and there was another woman in Canada. Her name was Erica Sharp, who was also kind of in that 51 kilo area. But anyway, so she decides, my teammate Lindsay Blisle, who was my mentor, my role model, she was kicking my butt every day. She decides that she's going to drop down to 48 kilos because, of course, she has a dream too to go to the
She's
Olympic
yep.
Games.
She's doing what's best for her.
Yes, exactly. And so, going into the Canadian Olympic team trials, I had to go. We had to go through this ladder tournament. Essentially, it came off of the national championships from the previous year, and so Lindsay was number one. I was third that year. So I had to compete against all these people who were trying to take the fourth spot. So they did this like little round robin kind of thing, and whoever came out in the fourth spot, I had to wrestle against them, and I had to beat them, and then I got to wrestle the number two person, and then whoever beat the number two person, which I did, ended up wrestling the number one person, which was Lindsay, and then it was a best out of three matches, and I lost both matches. She beat me quite handily. Yeah, and I remember feeling after that, I was so sad. Like I was devastated. And it's so interesting looking back because I was like, well, you didn't really prepare for it that well.
You didn't really prepare for it that well, you thought.
No, I didn't know how. I don't think I knew how. And it wasn't until after I had lost where I really was like, my goal is to represent Canada at the Olympic Games. I need to make sure I'm doing all the things that I need to do to make that happen. Instead of
So
just
we,
kind of waiting and hoping and going through the motions, I actually had to figure out for myself what I needed. What were my strengths? What were my weaknesses? What are the things that I needed to focus on to leave no stone unturned so that all of my efforts, if I win or lose the next Olympic trials, I know that I put everything into it. And there's
so
no
you're really,
regret.
I don't want to, your story's great. I don't want to cut you off, but you got to tell us then what you learned or what you changed. So if in 2004, you thought you didn't prepare, you're very interesting line. I didn't prepare well enough.
Yeah.
By the way, again, to reiterate, multi-time Canadian champion. So she's doing something right, but this is another level above Carol, and your analysis is, I didn't prepare well enough. So
Yeah.
what did you do? I got a few different areas that I might think of that where you'd go with.
Hmm.
Um, Maybe I'll just turn it over to you though. Was there a single major thing that was different in the next quad to get ready for 2008 that you did prepare better at?
Oh, I did a lot of things that
A lot of things.
yes, that helped me to prepare better. But it actually probably took me a couple years to really dial in. So
Hang on, a couple of years to realize. When did the realization strike you that you didn't prepare well enough? So you lose in 2004. Is it immediate, like you get off the mat and you say, I wasn't prepared well enough? Or was it some time after that when you realized I could have prepared better?
Yeah. Yeah, I was too busy feeling sorry for myself
Okay.
after I lost that. It took a little bit of reflection, and I think that that's a really important thing to point out too, is that when you are on a journey of, you know, growth, you have to be able to put away your pride and your ego enough to reflect on your failures and the difficulties and the struggles and all that in order to find a way to improve, to get past those struggles or like figure out how to grow from them or learn from them, right? Take something positive from it. And so it probably took me, um, well, it took me a year and a half to really sort out the things that I think I could have done better or focused on a little bit more, and it would have given me a better shot. And not to say that I would have won. Like at that point,
No, no.
my teammate Lindsay she was just better than me. She did all the things that she needed to do. I think maybe she was a little more mature about it, and yeah. So anyway, the things that I did, I was realizing that I was losing a lot of my training partners at SFU, where I'd been a member there at that club for, I guess, 6 years. And so Lindsay was retiring. She wasn't going to be there as a training partner. I had some other training partners who were graduating and moving on to doing other things. So I realized that I needed to surround myself with in the right environment. So I loved my club at Burning Mountain, but I knew that I needed to pad it. I needed to pad my environment so that
Yeah.
I could challenge myself in ways that would make me improve to the level where I think I needed to be in order to represent Canada at the Olympics. So I decided to move away.
And that
I
was a big decision for you.
Oh yeah.
Like born and raised in BC, now you're moving to Calgary.
Yes.
And for reasons, Carol, I want you to continue. I'll just throw in there, maybe Carol, every single athlete I've ever spoken to has said something like that, something like what you said. You need to, if you want to be elite, elite of the elite, you got to get the right environment. You got to get the right people around you who are going to push you. I think 100% of the athletes have said something like that. So you make a big decision in life. You're moving now to Calgary to get in this kind of environment. So continue speaking, please.
Yeah. So um, after the 2004 games, I got married. I got married, and my husband was born and raised Calgarian,
Oh, that
and
helps.
yes, but also national team coach from Calgary. And also, I had a couple of national team teammates that I'd been around the world with wrestling for Canada, and there were a couple of athletes on the Calgary team that I really wanted to train with. There were some holes in my wrestling, and I knew that those folks in particular could really help me out with getting better at that.
Yeah.
So I was always kind of known, like my style was very quick, slick, very like technical. But what I needed was a lot more work on how to manage like really close up, like grinding matches where, someone's just clinging onto you. I didn't have enough tools. I didn't have enough experience in my own wrestling room on how to deal with that kind of style. And these two women in particular were very good at it. And so I was like, I need to work with them. So all of those kinds of things played into my decision to move to Calgary.
And if so, we're speaking of, for lack of a better way to describe it in one word, technique. Like wrestling is, I would say, very, very highly specific skill sport. It's not like running, let's say, Carol, or bodybuilding, where you just go to the gym and you lift weights, or you go on a track and run. But even those athletes, Carol, that have sports that are way, way less complicated than the extremely complicated sport of wrestling, even those athletes gravitate to people that like, yeah, but this is really the way we're going to run here, and I'm going to push you when we're running together, or even weightlifting. Even people move to places where they get better technique, for lack of a better term. So it was the skills and the strategy and the techniques of the sport that was the biggest difference in not making the Olympics in 2004 and then winding up the Olympic champion 4 years later.
Yeah, and the physicality. So sometimes when I'm talking to my athletes about like all the different things that you can learn and get better at, I and a good analogy is like when in video games where those RPG games and you have like a character and they have like this much strength, this much stamina,
Yeah, good
this much.
analogy.
So it was really I was focusing on building all those things: technical, tactical, the physicality, the mental game, things like
So
that.
if you were this video game character,
Yeah.
what are the characteristics you would have had a lot of? And then what would be specifically, if you were to identify characteristics you would have been lacking that you needed to move to Calgary to improve in? What would be the specifics? Stuff you were good at and stuff you needed to improve upon.
Yeah, I would say speed and agility definitely were strengths from the beginning. Um, Technically, I think I was quite strong, but definitely it was the physicality piece that was missing. Physicality, and at that high level, there was the mental piece there that I was also missing. I would find myself in these like I was good enough to get to the world championships, good enough to get into medal rounds, but lacking in mental game when it came down to high pressure situations. So I was in a couple of world bronze medal matches where I ended up losing in the last like 30 seconds. So that was a big clue in of like, I think I need to work on this.
And now you're speaking of mental components, obviously another huge component of wrestling. Carol, like, is there specific strategies that you might be able to point out to say, I did this, I did that, in order to improve the mental game?
Oh yeah. I did a lot of affirmations. So it was a lot of, which encompasses a lot of different strategies. So a lot of journaling. It was
I
a
love it.
lot of writing down things that I felt I was confident in, but also things that this is really interesting because I started writing like really positive things about myself and my abilities, and I didn't believe it at first. So this was the big change is that I I had faith enough in this strategy that I put the time and effort in. And even though I didn't quite believe in it, it felt silly. Like we're not
Hmm.
used to saying nice things about ourselves,
Oh yeah, the opposite is what we're
right?
used to.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So it was strange at first, but I did it every single day. And if I didn't write it, I read it. I read all of these things about myself. And on a very consistent basis. Like I did that every single day. I had symbols in my house to remind myself of why I'm working so hard to get to where I wanted to be. Right. So I had this little Olympic pin. And it was the mascots, and they were, wrestling. And I had that in my bathroom, and every time I would, go brush my teeth, and I see it there, and it would just like be a reminder of like that's the reason why I'm getting up. I'm going to go to training, and I'm putting all this effort in, and I'm challenging myself, and you know, uh, going through all those regular struggles that an athlete goes through, when you're trying to be the best that you can be. So those kinds of things help me on a very daily basis. That it took a while, but it made such a huge difference. It made a huge difference in the way that I was able to perform, at the highest level, under pressure, under fatigue. So
I
yeah.
love it. I love so much of what you're saying there, Carol. What if I told you I have a journal for like 7 years of my life? I've kept 7 years in total with a
Oh yeah.
pencil.
Yeah.
I, I, I,
Old
I,
fashioned,
I
right?
old fashioned. I sing the praises of journaling. I think that's a great idea. And you mentioned the positive affirmations. Man, oh man, if the world could only latch onto that, Carol, instead of like
Oh,
the opposite. Like I say, you think of every reason in the world why you're no good.
yeah.
But
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think that we're hardwired to see the threat, right?
to see the
So
threat.
you have to actually be intentional on seeing the positives and the opportunities versus the threats in your
Let,
environment.
let's keep talking about what makes an Olympic gold medal wrestler. We've covered a few here in this quad that happens between 2004 and 2008. You said that the technical aspect of the sport was so important. You moved cities, for goodness sake, to get into a different environment. We've spoken about the mental strategies that you use to become a gold medal Olympian. Let's talk, Carol. Now, this is my area. What about physically? Okay. And I guess my question would be if you were to compare, how do we say it, the physical specimen that was Carol Huynh in 2004 versus 2008. And your answer to this question, by the way, whatever it might be, it might help us to kind of maybe even conceptualize we could rank the importance of these different things, maybe to a certain degree.
Okay.
Carol Huynh 2004 versus 2008. How different are you physically of a physical specimen? Speed, strength, whatever.
Yeah, so I think I was pretty quick and agile, as I had mentioned. But I think on the strength side, it I definitely improved from 2004 to 2008
You got
for sure.
stronger in 2008.
Yeah, yeah.
If I may throw this out there, I'm going to say that that wouldn't be the number one reason, though, why you're an Olympic gold medalist versus not making Team Canada. It's on the list, right? You're stronger. Clearly, it's good to be strong in wrestling, as is with every sport. But I don't think it's number one, Carol. Right? The other things you mentioned, even I think both the other things you mentioned, the technique for sure. You just got to learn how to wrestle, and the mental component, maybe even. I'd say is the trump card over. Yeah, I'm physically stronger. Not to diminish the importance; it is important. But I find it interesting to put into rank. Well, what are the components, and in what order are they to make up a world class wrestler? Anyway, so you say you are stronger. You fill in the rest there about what difference you think that made in 2008 versus 2004.
Yeah, so I think it was like it was not just the, going to strength and conditioning and the very I guess like it was individualized in a sense of like I was there with my teammates. We were all doing very similar things. But I think I was maybe a little more intentional of what I was doing. But not only the stuff that I was doing in the gym, but also what I was doing on the mats as well. So I had mentioned earlier that it was the physicality that I was missing. So I did a lot of things from the outside. It was all like, really quick from the outside, shooting in.
Okay.
And the teammates that I had gone to Calgary in specifically to work on, like, there's some techniques where they would tie you up. So they would, you grab an arm or an underhook and they're in like close and so I avoided those positions. I didn't like those positions. And then I realized, after 2004, I needed to face those those difficult positions so that I can improve and feel good and confident
Come
there.
out of your
So
comfort zone.
yeah, exactly. And so my teammates, like Erica Sharp, Brittany Lavadier, they were very good at close-up wrestling, very physical, very strong, and confident in those positions. And so me putting myself in their environment and forcing myself to figure out how to deal with that, and not only deal with it, so not only survive but thrive in those conditions, really helped me build my not only my strength but my strength endurance, but also the mental toughness piece of being in those positions where you really are like you're fighting, you're in that combat mode where
Yeah.
it's yeah it I think that made a huge difference for sure.
Let's keep trying to be as objective as possible and quantifying stuff. One of my favorite questions is talk to us, Carol, about the time commitment. Okay, in terms of, this is the quad, prior to becoming the Olympic champion 2008.
Hmm.
In terms of number of hours a day, a week that you're spending on the mat, and then you got to throw in there, because now you're talking about strength. I'm going to assume you're doing some extra work that's not technical wrestling, like weight training. try to put it in perspective.
Mhm.
What's the hourly commitment, the time commitment to get yourself ready to be the Olympic gold medal wrestler?
Yeah, so in 1 week, that would be 5 or 6 times on the mats, and that's an hour and a half to 2 hours on the mats. And then strength and conditioning was 6 times a week as well.
Really? Eh?
So it was back then, my programming was a mix of the strength and conditioning. Um, Whereas in the past, it was like, okay, this day, Monday, Wednesday, Friday are weights, and then Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, you do your conditioning. So you go for a run or whatever that is, do
Mm.
sprints and that sort of thing. Yeah, so my strength and conditioning coach, especially once I came to Calgary, it was a combination. So we would do strength and conditioning together. So yeah, that was so I guess 12 practices a week. Yeah, the technical aspects, but also the working on the physicality piece. So the conditioning, the strength endurance, and what it
Oh,
takes to be fighting in there with somebody, right? Yeah.
yeah. Okay, and I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you, Carol. So you got to fuel all that.
Yeah.
You got to fuel all that. So we've talked about physical training, we talked about mental training, we haven't talked about nutrition yet. I'll throw this out very open-ended to you. And
Mhm.
if somebody just came to you, okay, someone said the importance of nutrition to the sport of wrestling, what are the main topics that came to mind in your experience?
The main topics of nutrition.
Well, in general, yeah. Nutrition is important in what way to the sport of wrestling?
Yeah, so fueling your body for training and competition, managing your weight
I haven't even
throughout the
got there yet.
season, and then weight cutting. So those are kind of like three main topics that have to do with nutrition. But a big piece is yes, fueling yourself, and especially if you're a student athlete, you there are some nuances in there that's not just about well, what do you need to eat? It's what do you need to eat when?
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Let,
being
let,
and then preparing for that. You have to be able to plan ahead.
so let's dig into those two things, fueling in general, and then we
Hmm.
got to talk about because it's a necessary evil. This is a weight category sport,
Yeah.
so you got to be cognizant of your weight, and you very rightly, I think, mentioned that.
Hmm.
In terms of fueling all that activity, so we just heard the kind of stuff that's the recipe to make an Olympic champion in terms of the physical output that's required. Carol, did you go so far with your nutrition? Okay. Are you doing things like counting calories, counting grams of carbohydrate? That's a very reasonable option. Or if you told me, no, I didn't do that, I had more of a kind of a feeling it out process, always being cognizant of nutrition. But of the two options, like, are you counting things, or are you just kind of having like a more of a general feel for it?
I think in general it was mostly not counting calories. I remember there was a time where I I tried that and it didn't
Didn't
work.
work for you. Doesn't work for
No.
everybody.
No. And I do think that that's kind of going down a dangerous road because, because wrestling is a weight class sport, there is a higher risk of developing disordered eating
Yeah.
and eating disorders. And so I'm kind of glad that it didn't work for me because I think that if I had just like really,
Mm.
focused on that control of those like numbers, I'm not sure if that would have gone well. And I know people who have gone down that road and it has not gone well for them.
Yeah.
So for me, it was more I wanted to have a balanced diet, balanced meals. Having your proteins, your vegetables, and carbohydrates. So, I just tried to if I was managing my weight and trying to lower my body mass, my plate would just kind of shrink. And of course, it's not just those meals. Like there's snacks in between. Having a snack before training, whether it's on the mats or in the weight room or on the road, kind of thing. Yeah, so always kind of having that in mind of snacks and balanced meals, and also I wasn't super strict. Like I didn't like. I remember there's a time where well, I love ice cream. Okay. I love
Here,
sweets
here.
and I love salt. So I'm like, I got a salt tooth and I got a sweet tooth.
You got it all covered, Carol.
Yeah, so I don't know. I feel like, not restricting myself too much was actually easier on my mind and easier on my body too, because I think of course there's that mind body connection. So even when I was trying to manage my weight, I would always have a bit of ice cream every day.
Lovely. Let's talk about the weight management aspect and your own personal stories, if you don't mind sharing.
Sure.
So if you competed at 48, how close to that was like your walk around weight? Were you close to there, or do you ever have any stories, Carol, of where you had to do big weight manipulations in your career?
Yeah, I mean, through my career, so I didn't really have access to like a dietitian or a nutritionist. So a lot of it back then was trial and error. Oh, hey, what are you doing? What do you eat? What do you?
Sure.
How do we do this? So we would learn from each other, and then you have to like. It's a lot of experimenting and figuring out how your body's going to react to, yeah, any nutritional changes. My walking around weight, I probably mid career, I try to stay in and around 3 kilos away from where I needed to get to. So that
Three
being
kilos.
said, yes, 3 kilos. So that being said, it was national championships and world championships and like big like championships, Pan Am championships games, where you would have to get to your scratch weight is what they called it. So for me, 48 kilos, that was scratch weight. But in almost every other tournament throughout the year, it was always a plus 2 kilo allowance. So it was 50
Okay.
kilos.
Yeah.
So there were times in the season where I would be, 53 and a half kilos even. And then
Okay.
I would, there were quite often we would, fly overseas. We would arrive in the afternoon. I would manage my weight, my water weight. So I'd sweat off that afternoon, sweat off the next day, depending on how much I might have to do a second sweat weight loss before our weigh-ins. So that could be 2 or 3 weight loss sessions, like acute weight loss sessions, and then weigh in, and then the next day we would compete. That's how it used to
So
be.
so you did all those. They are in your repertoire. I guess,
Yeah.
Carol, my question would be: is there any wrestlers that do not have that in their repertoire? Is that a thing?
Of being able to sweat.
No, people who've never undergone the weight cut.
Oh,
In the world of elite wrestling, is there such a human being walking around that I've never cut weight? Is that even exist, do you think?
it's it's pretty rare, but it's there. Like there are,
It could be there.
yeah, there are people who are probably in the smallest weight class or the heaviest weight class. So there's some that are in the smallest weight class that are just like very small people. And don't get me wrong, though you'll probably find some people in that smallest weight class who cut the most weight too. Yeah. And then in the higher weight class, so like for the men, let's say 125 kilos, you'll have guys who are well below that because it's just such a big range.
Right.
What's the one below that? 96?
Yeah, it's a big jump, eh?
I
Think
think,
about
yeah.
that.
Yeah. So, so then you'll have people who like, well, they could be, eating a sub sandwich and then step on the scale and be just fine. Yeah. So, but for the most part, I think most wrestlers will have experienced that,
Yeah.
especially at the
I guess the key is, like you said, to stay within a reasonable striking distance of what you have to compete at. For you, it was 3 kilos. You never had any big crazy stories of weight manipulation for you personally?
mm, for me, yeah, actually. So when I was in my second year of university, it was my second time going to um, junior world championships, and I must have grown that year because all of a
Okay.
sudden I found so my weight class back then was 46 kilos. It was tiny. So my first year of university, I went to world championships at 46 kilos, and I probably weighed about like 48 kilos. So it wasn't too bad. I learned how to at least, you know, um, do the weight cut for that. Following year, I between nationals and the world championships was probably about, I don't know, 5 or 6 months, and I was weighing 51 kilos. So it's
Mm,
51 kilos, and then I had to cut 5 kilos. That's like 10% of my body weight.
Carol.
Oh yeah, it was terrible, and I didn't know how to do it properly, right?
Hmm.
None of us really knew how to do it. Again, I said it, like we're all trying to like learn from each other, but this is like, well, this is only my second year of this
Yeah.
level of competition. And yeah, I did it terribly.
And how'd
Probably
you
in
perform
the
after that?
3 day. Oh, well, that was probably so in my first two junior years. Those are the probably the first times I met up with Chihiro Icho. I got my
And she
butt,
started beating you.
yeah, that was the first couple of years, and yeah, lost quite handily. And it was yeah, it was tough because that my second year junior, I was also the senior national champion as well. So I came off of junior world championships, and everyone was thinking, oh, she's going to do really well this time, and I totally tanked. I tanked it, right? I blew it. So a month later, I was supposed to go to the senior world championships, and I remember talking to my coaches and being like, I don't think I should go. Like I'm just not good enough. And I remember one of my coaches, Dave McKay, was like, "Well, why not? Like, just go and see it. Like, there's no expectation on you. This is a senior world championship." And I ended up going and placing third.
There you go.
Yeah,
Uh,
very interesting. Yeah, a little more psychology there.
Carol, your whole career is interesting, and we need to finish the story of your career before
Yes.
before we leave here today. So that was a great insight into the physical training, the mental training, nutrition, getting you ready to be the Olympic gold medalist. Now, I want to jump forward, Carol. We're only going to briefly touch on your Olympic bronze medal, because that's like what, after that's like the crowning career achievement for most people. But we're going to conclude there. And what I would like you to do is tell us the story of that Olympics, the 2012 Olympics, when you don't win the gold. A bronze is obviously spectacular, but it wasn't defending the gold. So, Carol, summarize for us that final chapter, shall we call it, of the elite wrestling career.
Yeah, it was interesting. So I got married in 2005, 2005. And so my husband, he supported me through all of this, my dream of going to the Olympics. And I had thought, okay, well, after 2008, I'll retire. I'll probably stop wrestling. Do go and get my graduate degree in psychology and move on, become a psychologist. And then I won, and all of a sudden I was like, oh wow, this is this is kind of fun. And so I continued wrestling, but I did start to struggle in a sense of I put a lot of pressure on myself. I put a ton of pressure on myself to be this like perfect role model, and a lot of expectation that I thought that people had of me because I'm an Olympic champion, so obviously I've got to be really good at everything. And
Wow,
it
eh?
took me a while to realize that, man, that pressure that I was putting on myself was really just killing the joy of wrestling for me.
Wow.
So yeah, so I find skip ahead 2010 Olympics here in Vancouver. And I remember all this talk about, oh, the first Olympic gold medalist on Canadian soil, they're going to be a millionaire. And I remember thinking and talking to my fellow other Olympians who were also
Hmm.
medalists, and we're like, nope.
Yeah, I
So
don't know who thought that.
it was all over the media, and I was like, oh my gosh, seriously? No, not
No,
here
I
in
don't think that's how
Canada.
that works. Maybe the pro hockey players, Carol.
Maybe, yeah. But anyway, I just found myself coming to a realization that I had had such a negative outlook on the sport because I was dealing with things that didn't really have anything to do with the sport. I was dealing with things like, oh, making appearances and talking here and there, and how much am I supposed to charge? What am I worth? Things
Mm.
like that, right? So I was dealing with a lot of these existential things. It forced me to think about those things, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
find my value outside of what I did, right? So
Mm.
it was a good, like it was a tough journey, but it was necessary for me to really look at what was keeping me motivated and what was bringing me joy, and what were my goals, like why was I doing this. Even my dad was like, why are you still wrestling, you won a gold medal. So funny. I was like, I don't know, dad. But it was it really forced me to get back to the basics of why I started wrestling. I loved it because it was so challenging. It made me feel good. It made me feel confident. It made me feel at ease in my body, and feeling capable in this body, and the physical sense of that also kind of translated into the mental part, the attitude, having confidence in my abilities, not just like my physical abilities on the mat, but outside of that, right? So
Mm.
anyway, so I came to all this realization, and I finally decided, I was like, okay, well, I just need to get back to the love of sport. And so every day in practice, like my goal wasn't to improve myself technically or tactically. It was to love the sport again and enjoy
Wow,
it. And so that was quite the journey.
that's a great idea.
Yeah, oh, for sure. It really made me realize how important it is to like nurture your motivation when especially when you have like these big goals that are so tough. There's no guarantee you're ever going to reach these like huge, lofty goals, but you got to find the joy in those moments, right? So,
So, Carol, look, you're talking about being an Olympic medalist wrestler. However, all the stuff you just said just then, that applies to life itself, man.
oh yeah, absolutely. That's a great thing about sport as a metaphor, right? Like you can use it for any endeavor that you might have in life.
Anything worthwhile that's difficult.
Yeah, yeah.
Like being an Olympic medalist wrestler, gold and bronze. We're very proud of you for both of them, Carol.
Thank you.
So an unbelievable career, an unbelievable journey through wrestling and sport itself. But before we go, if you have a few more minutes, Carol, uh, I'd like to play 10 questions with Carol Huynh. Are you up for playing this game?
Am I allowed to say pass if I didn't think of anything?
No, no.
Oh boy.
There's,
Okay.
I'm joking. No, no. Look, Carol, this is like get to know Carol a little bit better. Well, actually, we're going to learn some more about wrestling as we go along with this too. Carol, we're going to learn about you personally. We're going to keep learning about wrestling. We're going to learn about Canada. I told you these are all my multiple objectives here on these interviews with athletes such as yourself. So, without further ado, then let's keep working towards those objectives and start 10 questions. You ready?
Ready.
Ready. All right. Question number one, Carol. What is the quintessentially Canadian piece of culture that you remember from your childhood?
Oh gosh. From my childhood. Oh. Um.
While you're thinking, let me preface this. I'm very interested in what you have to say here, Carol, because you and I, we shared a time on this earth. Very close in age, Carol, you and I, different coasts now, mind you, but we grew up through the 1980s, the 1990s, and you have a different perspective of this, as you talked about earlier, your family coming from a very different part of the world, and they drop you into this new place. So I'm very curious as to what you might say. Like, what's a cultural thing that you remember from your childhood?
Um. Oh gosh. I don't know why, but the first thing that popped into my head was the winters. Yeah,
That's an
and
answer for
having
sure.
fun in the snow and going sledding and
There you go.
yeah, there you go.
Tremendous answer. Quintessentially Canadian. Sledding in the snow, like we have here in Toronto, by the way. We're bombarded by snow these days.
Oh
I don't
yeah.
know what it's like in Calgary. Anyway, Carol, my second question is a follow-up question. I told you, you're kind of two worlds here when you come into planet Earth on 1980. The first question was about Canadiana. The second question, what was the quintessentially Vietnamese piece of culture that your family maintained while living in Canada that you fondly remember about your childhood?
The food. Food.
My wife would certainly agree with you about that.
Oh yeah.
Big fan of Vietnamese food question.
Yeah.
All right, question number three. Favorite sport other than wrestling?
Oh, well, my first love was basketball. Yeah. Yes, I played that through high school.
Basketball.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, Question number four. Carol, here's the question every athlete gets asked. What is your personal best one rep max bench press?
Oh. Oh man, what was it? Maybe 117? No, I think that 117, 119, something like that.
Now, by the way, I said you couldn't pass, but it is absolutely legitimate to have an answer. I have no idea. And there's been many an athlete who said, I don't have any idea, not interested, but I ask everyone that because I think it's funny, Carol. You one rep max bench press. All right, let's keep learning about wrestling. Okay, let's get back to the wrestling here. Carol, this is going to be, this is question number five, but it's going to be subdivided. Okay, I actually have one, two, three, four, five subdivisions of
Oh
this question.
boy.
It's all about
Okay.
injuries. It's all about injuries in wrestling.
Yep.
That's question number five. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to name an injury, and you're going to say yes or no if you had it. Okay?
Okay.
And
Okay.
maybe, you know what, if you care to elaborate an interesting story here or there, you could say something about it. But that's the idea. Five injuries, and you say yes or no. Did you have them? All right, ready. Wrestling injuries, question number five. Uh, 5A, cauliflower ears.
Yes.
But not now, not anymore, right?
Well, it doesn't go away. It's just mine happened to be just on the inside, not the outside.
Okay. Did, did you ever get them? What do people do to get rid of them?
Oh, they drain them.
Did you get that done?
No, well, have I ever? No, I was very lucky because I only had it in here and it wasn't ever enough to have to get it drained out. It never puffed up that much. But yeah, you'll see some people who have like ooh, huge ones
Oh
and
yeah.
you have to like put a syringe in there and pull out the fluid. Otherwise, it will just stay there and it will harden and then it's just like really big. So, yeah.
See, Carol, I was never good enough to get cauliflower ears. Like, I didn't do it long enough. Didn't wrestle enough to get cauliflower ears. Anyway,
It is a
five
bit of a
B.
rite of passage.
It is. It is. 5B, staph infection.
No.
No, good for you. Only sanitary practices in your wrestling clubs. Question 5C, concussion.
Yes. Yes. Had a concussion.
As in full lights are turned off, or just kind of a.
Well, I was in wrestling practice and I was wrestling a boy that I shot in and he sprawled and his hip came down on my head. And then it was kind of like all of a sudden I was learning something with my coach and I was like, oh, I don't remember getting here. So,
Amazing, hey, Carol?
yeah, yeah, it was wild. I'd never
Yeah.
experienced anything like that before.
They're very interesting how the brain works, man. Anyway, that's a whole other topic. Question 5D, stitches.
No stitches.
Never got busted open.
Nope. Nope.
Wow. You were busting people open, Carol.
That's right.
And 5E, is there any other good ones that I'm missing?
Oh, I broke my nose a couple times. Um, Lots of knee stuff. I've never had any surgeries though. So again, very lucky. Yep.
Fantastic.
Neck
Oh, I should.
injury. Yeah.
I should. It just occurred to me to think about this. And did you ever vomit after a match?
Never.
All right. Let's keep flying along here. Uh, Question number 6. Getting to know Carol. What are you watching on Netflix these days?
Oh, I just started Stranger Things again. I just
Good
watched the
answer.
first season before, and now all this talk about Stranger Things. I'm like, okay, well, maybe I should start it again.
Carol, here's my delving into psychology. I think it is just fantastic for marriages to have something on Netflix that you can watch together.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's my psychological. I'm totally unqualified, by the way, to talk about psychology. But anyway, me and my wife are currently watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine. We're loving it.
Oh,
Anyway,
that is the best. We've seen that probably 3 times over now. So great
we
pick,
love it.
great pick.
It's great. Anyway.
So fun. Yes.
Okay, question number 7. Let's get back to wrestling. This is a language question, Carol, about wrestling,
Okay.
or a terminology question. I'm very curious to see where your mind goes with this. Okay. Did you ever say you were fighting, or was it always you were wrestling? The
Always
difference in the
wrestling.
terminology.
Always wrestling.
For you, it was really,
Yeah.
eh?
Yeah.
Because I heard some guys, they would talk, who am I fighting next? Who's my next fight against? That was not you.
No. No.
Now, I find that interesting because I thought it was something weird about me. And again, maybe that was the reason why I didn't do so well, is because I thought maybe I had the wrong mentality. I didn't view it as a fight. I said, and these guys would talk about their fights. I'm like, it's not a fight. It's a wrestling match.
Yeah.
That was my mentality. But you're backing me up here. You're saying
I'm
you always
backing
thought
you
it was
up. Yep.
Wow. Okay. Very interesting. Now, speaking of fighting, question number 8. All right, Carol, this is going to be a good one. Okay, let's make it pop culture. Let's make it mainstream here. Okay. The same year that Carol Huynh is the Olympic wrestling champion, women's wrestling champion, there's another girl. You might even know where I'm going with this. Another girl at the same Olympics in a different combat sport who puts herself on the map, whose name is Ronda Rousey, bronze medalist in judo. Okay.
Yes.
And she goes on, but actually, this surprised me. I had to do some research. It wasn't until, believe it or not, 2013, 5 years later, Carol, that she kind of crossed over and MMA, women's MMA became a thing. But she was there with you at the Olympics. Question is, if the timing had lined up a little bit better, would MMA have been something that you would have been interested in pursuing?
No. I have no interest in punching people in the face or or getting punched in the face. No, the thing is, the interesting thing about wrestling is it is the only combat sport where you take care of your opponent's safety. You're not locking people's joints out. You're not choking. You're not trying to, you know, choke them out. Although sometimes that happens, and I've done that before. But you're not actively trying to injure somebody.
Yeah. I do find that interesting that you say that. And because you could have been, Carol. I mean, wrestling is the base for MMA, grappling, we'll call it. And if you're the friggin' gold medalist, like they'd be asking, hey, is this girl, does she? But your answer would be, it didn't speak to you, as you so eloquently put it. The idea of punching people in the face didn't speak to you.
No, no.
There you go. Okay,
I guess that's why maybe I don't call it fighting.
they were related. I was cognizant of that when I put these together.
Yeah.
But great answer, though. Great answer. All right, we only got 2 left, Carol. Somewhat related also, maybe. Question number 9. Who's the most famous person you ever met because you're the Olympic gold medalist? Was it Ronda Rousey? Did you meet Ronda Rousey in
I
2008?
actually didn't. No, I hadn't met Ronda Rousey.
She wasn't a big deal back then.
No.
But anyway, the question is, who's the most famous person you've ever met because of wrestling?
I mean, I guess hard to judge like level of fame. I mean, met some hockey players. You know, dropping the puck at games. You know, the Sedin twins. Also, I met Alec Baldwin one time. Actually, when we were trying to fight to get the Olympics back in, he was like part of that, part of the support group.
Was he really? Alec Baldwin?
Yeah. Oh, sorry, not Alec Baldwin. His brother. What's his name?
Steve Baldwin.
Steve Baldwin. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I didn't. Why would he be interested in that? What Carol's referring to, by the way, we could have talked about that too, Carol. What year was that? 2013?
Yes, that's
when
right.
When these fools decided that wrestling wasn't going to be an Olympic sport anymore.
Yes.
Let's have a bonus question. Just tell that story. What was the deal with that, and who decided that? And it didn't last long, I know, but what happened?
Well, so the IOC decided that wrestling as an international federation was not doing the things that they were supposed to do. So really, it
Oh,
was on our international federation, but
oh,
they kind of forced. At the time, it was FILA. It was called FILA. Now it's United World Wrestling (UWW). To basically do what they're supposed to do,
I
and
get you.
fill out the documents that they're supposed to do. So I think it was a big slap on the wrist, a big one,
I get you.
because we were basically kicked out of the main program of the Olympic Games. And so we had to fight our way back in. That year, we had to fight to be a new sport, which it was not a new sport. It was very,
It is the oldest sport
yeah,
known to mankind. I remember that debacle. But
yeah.
anyway, it
But
was
you
more of
know
an
what? It was a
administrative thing.
great catalyst, though. It was a great catalyst for some really great change, where there was more accountability on our international federation, and it actually put more of a spotlight on how important women's wrestling was to this movement. So, a lot of really great changes, and also having more the athlete's voice be a bigger part of decisions. Yeah.
I don't know if you're looking through the computer screen. The 10th and final question for Carol. Some parting advice for anyone interested in getting into the sport of wrestling, but specifically, Carol, girls
Yeah.
getting into the sport of wrestling. How do we do this? How do we promote this? I know you're passionate about this topic. That's going to be the final word of our interview here today.
Yeah. So I guess a piece of advice for anyone who is starting a program and wants to bring like promote girls wrestling is make sure that it is fun and that it is it's a very social thing as well, which is what I experienced for me. When I tried to join in grade 9, and I didn't feel like I belonged there. Whereas the following year, I joined with lots of friends, and it was just a lot of fun. And
Great fun.
it wasn't so much like winning and being the best. It was like, how do we enjoy this time together, learning something new, learning something and challenging, but make it fun at the same time. So that's a big one, for sure.
Absolutely. And Carol, you just brought back some memories. And I wasn't planning to do this, but I thought about all the fun I had wrestling in university. So I'm going to give a shout out to my boys, Kent O'Coin, Daryl Kennedy, Kenny Rose, Colin Banfield. If you're out there listening to this, Steve Powell. What fun! What times we had. Anyway,
Awesome.
anyway. So Carol, you are awesome. Your stories were awesome. Your career has been awesome. Everything you've done for the great sport of wrestling has been awesome. And all I can say in closing here, thank you for giving me this hour and a half of your time. It's been my honor that our times have crossed over here on planet Earth today, Carol. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much. It was a lot of fun.
All right. So on that note, I will sign off like I always sign off by saying, let's go Canada, support Canadian athletes.